The hallway light started flickering on a Thursday night. I'd just gotten home from a double shift, exhausted, barely able to drag myself through the door. The bulb stuttered, on, off, in a slow, deliberate rhythm that made my skin crawl. I stood there in the semi-darkness, bag still in hand, staring up at it. That's when I saw them. Two human eyeballs floating inside the glass, suspended in the glow of the filament, rotating slowly like specimens in a jar. Pale blue irises, bloodshot whites, pupils that contracted and dilated as if they were still alive. I dropped my bags. My heart hammered against my ribs. This couldn't be real. I was seeing things. Sleep deprivation, stress, maybe carbon monoxide. I squeezed my eyes shut, counted to 10, and looked again. They were still there, watching me. One of the eyes drifted toward the glass, pressing against the inside of the bulb. The pupil locked onto mine, and I felt a jolt of primal terror, that ancient fear of being watched by something that shouldn't exist. I grabbed a chair, climbed up with shaking legs, and reached for the bulb. The glass was scorching hot, burning my palm, but I twisted anyway. The bulb loosened with a soft pop, and the eyes fell out. They hit the hardwood floor with two sickening wet thuds, rolling in opposite directions before settling face up. Both stared at the ceiling, perfectly still, trailing optic nerves behind them like severed roots. I stood frozen on the chair, unable to process what I was seeing. Real eyeballs, on my floor, from my light bulb. Eventually, I climbed down, grabbed a plastic bag, and scooped them up without looking too closely. I tied it shut, triple-bagged it, and threw it in the dumpster outside. Then I went back inside, locked every door and window, and sat on my couch until dawn, lights blazing in every room. The next morning, I convinced myself it was a hallucination. Exhaustion. Maybe I'd finally snapped. I'd call in sick, see a doctor, get some sleeping pills. But when I walked into the hallway, the light was on. I froze. I hadn't replaced the bulb. I hadn't even touched the socket. But there it was, glowing warm and steady, humming softly. I looked up, my stomach twisting into knots. Two eyes floated inside. Different eyes this time. Darker, brown instead of blue. And they looked familiar. My hand flew to my face, fingers pressing against my eyelids. My eyes were still there. I could feel them, solid and wet in their sockets. But when I looked back up at the bulb, I understood. They were mine. Perfect replicas of my own eyes stared down at me from inside the glass. And as I watched in horror, they blinked. I blinked with them. It wasn't voluntary. It was synchronized. When the eyes in the bulb closed, mine closed. When they opened, mine opened. I tried to resist, to keep my eyes open, but my body wouldn't obey. The bulb controlled me now. Panic exploded in my chest. I grabbed a broom and swung it at the light fixture. The bulb shattered, raining glass and sparks. The eyes fell again, hitting the floor, but this time they didn't just lie there. They rolled, slowly, purposefully, across the floor toward me. I backed away, but they followed, dragging their optic nerves behind them like leashes. One bumped against my shoe and tilted upward, the pupil dilating as it focused on my face. I kicked it hard. It skittered down the hallway and slammed into the wall, but within seconds, it was rolling back, hunting me. I ran to the bathroom and locked the door. My breath came in ragged gasps. I splashed cold water on my face, trying to calm down, trying to think. When I looked in the mirror, my reflection stared back, but something was wrong. My eyes looked dull, glassy, dead. Behind me, I heard a wet, dragging sound. I spun around. The eyes were squeezing under the bathroom door, pushing through the gap with their trailing nerves. They emerged one by one and began to climb. Up the cabinet, up the wall, up the mirror. They positioned themselves at eye level with my reflection and pressed against the glass from the other side. My reflection blinked. I didn't. I wasn't moving my eyelids, but in the mirror, I was. And my reflection was smiling, a wide, unnatural grin that I wasn't making. My real face was frozen in terror. Then the eyes began to push through the glass. Like the mirror was water, they broke the surface, wet and glistening, emerging halfway into my world. They reached for me. I slammed my fist into the mirror. Glass exploded everywhere, cutting my knuckles, my wrist. The eyes fell into the sink, twitching. I turned on the faucet and flipped the garbage disposal switch. The grinding sound was unbearable. Wet, organic, wrong. When it finally stopped, Only pink-stained water remained, swirling down the drain. I bandaged my hand with shaking fingers. I didn't leave the bathroom for hours. When I finally opened the door, the hallway was dark, silent, safe. That was 3 days ago. This morning, I woke to light flooding my bedroom. I hadn't left any lights on. Dread filled my stomach as I walked into the hallway. The bulb was glowing again. Inside, 4 eyes floated. 2 brown, 2 blue. Mine, and the originals. They all blinked in perfect unison. And so did I. I can't stop blinking. I can't control my own eyelids anymore. And tonight, when I looked up, I saw 6 eyes. Then 8. The bulb is filling up. Every day, more eyes. And I know that when there's no more room in the bulb, they'll have to go somewhere else. They're going to fill me next.